Good to be with you here on a Friday evening. I'm Shane Seeley and welcome to another edition of Final Score, a sports show, where we talk about all of those headlines and newsmakers of the week. Tonight we talk about all West Indies cricket. Yep, and we have some special guests that are no strangers to the game. A former West Indies pacer and an analyst are sitting on the panel tonight. Well, of course, you, our viewers, can make your contributions and answer your questions via social media. The WhatsApp number, 228-5562, while our Facebook handles are CBC Barbados or cbcnews.bb. You can also call live, number 228-5562. So let's welcome in our guest now. With us tonight, former Barbados and West Indies pacer Pedro Collins is here, as well as cricket analyst and commentator Joel Manning. Great to have you both on here on Final Score. Well, the Windies, they are currently in Zimbabwe contesting the ICC Men's World Cup qualifiers, vying for a spot in the main draw. Now, gentlemen, the time zone, I know it's a little different, and those games can be very hard to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and take in the entire match. However, I'm pretty sure you guys would have seen a bit of the highlights and heard of the good results for the West Indies, and it's good to see that they're getting some good results. So Pedro, let's start with you. I know your plate is full at the moment, working as a coach with the Academy of Sport at the University of the West Indies at Cave Hill. How important is it for the West Indies, in your opinion, to qualify for this major tournament? And I mean, I understand the context that we all believe that the West Indies should not have to qualify, but they're there and they have to go through this round. How important is it for them?
Yes, good night, everyone, all the viewers. I think it's very important for, West Indies to qualify because, the tradition is there. The greats, they have a lot of greats that play the game for West Indies. And, to be in a position like this, is to be unheard of, but they're there right now. And the most important thing, that they're winning games and, hopefully that they continue and get over this round and move on to the, to the main, I would say the main part of the qualification, and hopefully they get through.
And you know some of these men and what they're capable of. Would you say this particular side is one to rival all the other teams who are already in the main draw of the tournament? Looking at
Yes, definitely. Definitely, I think that the squad, they have a lot of dangerous players, a lot of good players. And, I think Shea Hope, right now he's leading from the front as a captain. And, he's been doing well. He does have to be supported from the rest of the guys. You have Jonathan Charles, the veteran. Then you have the likes of Proran, who, is finding his feet. I think he had a very good knock the last game they played. So I think that the mix-up, to have Jason Horn in the bottom, along with guys like Shepard, all those guys can beat bowling. And I think I feel like our own team, they're good enough.
Pedro seems to have gotten disconnected there, but hopefully he can join us back in a few moments. You know how the internet can be. Joel, come to the crease, Joel. Let's bring you in here. I mean, he was making the point that it's a good all-round side, and even though we are seeing some good individual and team results, should the West Indies be in this position seeking this progression?
Hey, Shane, a pleasure to be here. Good night to yourself and to all of the viewers. I think that question is one that answers itself. Definitely West Indies should not be in this position, but I guess that is, as they would call it, water under the bridge at the moment. I'm currently standing on the bridge are the qualifiers, and so far I guess you can say so good. 2 from 2. Of course, you would say expected results given the position that West Indies find themselves in terms of the ODI rankings. But at the same time, the job still needs to be done, and so far, so good.
And you got some new additions, and when I say new additions, I mean on the coaching staff as well. The former all-rounder, the great Sir Carl Hooper, he has joined the regional support staff as an assistant coach. How efficient is Hooper for the role of this current crop?
In terms of how efficient he is, I'm not sure if I can answer that particular question. Obviously, it's a case of
Do
he
you like
has
him
the
for the
experience
job
in
then?
terms.
Let me ask that then. Do you like Carl
Do I
Hooper for the
like
job?
do I like him for the job? I would say that it is an interesting opportunity for him. In terms of when they were looking for names, I wouldn't necessarily have put Carl Hooper into the mix of things, maybe. But at the same time, I certainly cannot discredit the breadth of knowledge that he brings to the cricket. And funny enough, it is always nice, I guess, to have new perspectives because, like I said, he was not somebody that I personally, because I'm not sure if others maybe had him in the pool of options to be on the coaching staff. But for me, it's a case of fresh eyes, fresh thoughts, fresh perspective. And I guess it's just a case of now to see how that materializes over the course of the stint that he's there.
Who are your leading options for the job?
Who were my leading options for the job? I'm not too sure right now because it was a case of at the stage that we're at, I heard that Darren Sammy would have been probably the leading person to take up the white ball coaching role. But in terms of the backroom staff, honestly, I I wouldn't necessarily say I didn't give it too much thought, but I was not certain who could probably be those persons to fill those roles because I wasn't certain maybe the direction that they were looking to take. Obviously, you're looking to take it in a winning direction, but I wasn't sure, who might be the pieces to go along with that puzzle. Funny enough, I wasn't necessarily surprised with, let's say, the inclusion of Refer along there as well to go along with Sammy because that pairing has been together for some time across CPL and a couple other tournaments as well. But the Carl Hooper into the mix wasn't, like I said, I didn't necessarily factor him. At the same time, I'm excited to see where this partnership can go for them.
Yeah, you mentioned Sammy there. He's now wearing the cap of head coach. There were some mixed views on that move. What are yours?
Um, I am never one to say man for the job. I am always one to say a man who can be tested
He's
because
proven
for
his
sure we know
leadership credibility for sure.
yeah, that was it. Like in terms of the results on the field, we've seen that in terms of the two World Cups. You've also seen glimpses of it across various tournaments. So we saw the turnaround for St. Lucia franchise in the CPL with Darren Sammy at the helm. He's had stints in PSL as well. And just in terms of the passion that Darren Sammy has for West Indies cricket, I think is a good one. And for me, I am not going to say that he is the most experienced, and I also don't think you need the most experienced person. It's almost a case of horses for courses. And at the moment, I think that Darren Sammy actually could be a very good horse on the racetrack at the moment because he's somebody who wants to prove himself as well. So it's not a coach who has been tried and tested and coming in because he has this breadth of experience behind him, but it's somebody who wants to continue to get their name out there. Somebody who has a passion for West Indies cricket. It's somebody who, because I actually had a chance to talk with him before he went into the World Cup qualifiers. And for him, it was a case of taking it step by step, day by day. He knows that the odds are stacked against him, but at the same time, he knows that he has the talent and he believes that he has the team and the team has a vision. And like I said, over the course of it, we're going to see whether or not he is the correct horse for the course. But for me personally, I think that he's a good fit at the moment for where they're looking to go.
Okay, well, look, we'll take a quick drinks break. We'll hope that Pedro joins us here on the field again, and we'll come back with your questions and comments as we continue to talk West Indies cricket right here on Final Score. We'll be back in a moment. And when I see Jason Holder's name, I always have a little bit of a cringy feel because I expect so much more from him. But he's finally getting some runs. Again, we need him to, well, when the other batsmen, when the top order batting fail. That's the question coming, or comment coming from social media here. Your thoughts, Joel?
It's definitely good to see Jason amongst the runs. I know he got a half century in that first game, certainly. And of course, Jason is one that is immensely talented. At one stage, he was ranked #1 in terms of all-rounders. In terms of the experience, we know he has it. He came into cricket at a very young age, and he is, I wouldn't say necessarily back end of his career, but he's into what we call that sweet spot almost, where, because we talk about the maturity level of our West Indies cricketers, and obviously the more they play, the more mature they become, or rather they become a lot more mature, closer towards the 30s, early 30s, and that is the period that Jason is at. So still a young man, but in terms of his maturity right now, it is definitely coming to the fore. And it's always good to see Jason getting some runs with the bat. Of course, we know that he will always pick up wickets with the ball because of the talent that he carries. So obviously just backing it up, coming down in that lower middle order is always good for him to be getting runs.
My problem with Jason, though, is I think he needs to decide what formats he's playing. He's probably exhausted playing too much cricket, and that's a whole other conversation for another time. Kyle Mears needs some batting in the engine room, probably moving down a few spots from opening the batting. And that engine room contains Powell as well, and let Charles or Chase open the batting.
That's an interesting one. And it's funny that that's said, because obviously you saw the form for Kyle Mears, especially coming out of the IPL. He's actually been batting at the top of the order for the West Indies now since he's come into the fold in later days, so to speak. And funny enough, his performances have been there. It's just a case of we're not seeing it right now. Obviously, West Indies have had a couple issues at the top of the order so far in these qualifiers. I believe that in both matches, they were, let's say, 2 wickets down for less than 20 runs on the board in both matches. So it's a case of really and truly top order for the West Indies hasn't necessarily fared in terms of that 1, 2, 3 spot so far. But in terms of Mears moving down, I don't think so. Simply because Shai Hope, even though he can bat all around the order, whether or not his top 2, 3, 4, I think that he's at a very good position right now at 4. He's batting well. He's clicking nicely. You certainly won't want to shuffle that around. It's simply a case of guys doing what they're required to do. Because I don't always believe in shifting certain players just because they haven't performed where they're supposed to perform, because at the end they're picked to play there. So it's a case of, if he's not doing that, then get somebody else who is doing that into the side. Give Kyle that rest, let him come back in. That's not to say that I want Kyle Mears to rest, because I just think that is a case of, you know what, he had a fantastic IPL. Maybe some fatigue might be there. I am not sure. But, it's a case of when Kyle clicks, he will click. And I'm pretty sure that before the end of this tournament, that might happen for him.
Yeah, I like Kyle at the top of the order. Definitely not Chase. Maybe Charles, I would consider. But I prefer that right-hand, left-hand combination, and King is at the top. So leave that alone. What about replacing Paul with Shepherd? That's Chemo Paul.
Yeah, in terms of Chemo Paul and Shepherd, I guess it's a case of the roles that they're currently looking at. So obviously, from a coaching perspective, I'm not sure if at the moment they're looking at Chemo Paul to be doing something specific with the ball. Obviously, they're very similar in terms of the characteristics as all-rounders. For me, Shepherd probably packs a bigger punch with the bat. Kind of leaks a few runs with the ball, but he's also kind of effective occasionally at the back end of things. But maybe it's a case of they're looking at the conditions out there, the services, and saying that Chemo Paul might have the variation required for the surfaces, and maybe that's why they're going with Chemo Paul at the moment. Not sure if they might maybe squeeze in Shepherd further down into the piece. Obviously, there's a game tomorrow versus Zimbabwe, and a very important game
indeed
at that. So, yeah.
We're playing the hosts at home. They may get some of that energy from the crowd, so we're hoping for all the best there, despite we know that the West Indies should win, hands down. I think we have Pedro back here with us. I'll give you a little tap at this one, Pedro. We've been hearing a lot about Yannick Correa, and the comment here now, I prefer Correa to Hussein. Too bad he got injured. Who do you prefer as the spinner in the side, Correa or Hussein?
It's a tough one. I think Hussein have been doing very well. He can bowl on the ball if needed, He gets wickets. Correa, on the other hand, is a leg spinner, and to have a leg team is very important. I mean, any team with leg spinner, once he's spotting the ball, is very deadly. And to have, a leg spinner that is spotting, your team, I would rather that than, the left arm orthodox bowler. So I'll probably lean towards, Correa for this game. Obviously, the wickets in Zimbabwe, they flatten out pretty easy after probably the first hour and a half, and it get very difficult. So if you get a leg spinner actually turning and spotting the ball, you can bring success.
Yeah, and he's proven that for sure. He's taken 4 wickets in both of those matches. So, I mean, he's really one that we should be hoping that he recovers soon. The Windies deserve to be in the qualifiers. Which of the automatic qualifiers are they playing better than? Which of the automatic qualifiers are the West Indies currently playing better than? Joel?
Joel, yeah.
None. I honestly, given the performances, I wouldn't necessarily say, I wouldn't go as far as say as they deserve to be the qualifiers, but they are in the qualifiers. I mean, the performances certainly have not been there in the way that we would have hoped or expected from the West Indies, and because of that, they're currently here. At the moment, I wouldn't even necessarily look at the performances of the qualifiers and say, you know what, we might be on a very nice trajectory of, where we want to be or where we should be. I'm not going to say that we're getting the job done, but in terms of deserve, well, I guess if you look at the performances, then yes.
Well, I think we need a return of Pedro Collins. We need a left arm quick back in that setup. It adds that variety that we definitely need, especially in the shorter format of the game. But we'll take a pause. We've got some more West Indies cricket to talk about, more projections as we look forward to that match against Zimbabwe. And yeah, we'll come back and field those questions right here on Final Score. With you on Final Score now. Just an update for you on that situation with the leg spinner Yannick Correa. He's undergone a surgical procedure to repair a fracture to his nose. Correa suffered the injury when he was struck in the face during a training session on the eve of West Indies' first game. The surgery took place in Harare yesterday, and Correa will remain with the squad there in Zimbabwe under the care of the medical team. Cricket West Indies says the decision on when he can return to play will be made in the coming days. So, gentlemen, how big of a blow is this Correa being absent from the team, having 4 wicket hauls in both of the warm-up games? And that's what I meant. He got 2 4-wicket hauls in the warm-up game. Pedro, and you mentioned it before, it's always very key to have that leggy in and really hitting the spots there. Pedro seems to have been bowled by another leg spinner of the internet. So we'll hope to see him again in the final minutes. But Joel, having a leggy in the side, we see it for Australia, where they have his name is missing me now, but I can see him. He got a lot of IPL let, and he plays in the Big Bash as well. Having that leg is very, very important.
Certainly having a leg spinner. Yeah, certainly having a leg spinner in any team is a fantastic pick for you. You always look at your leg spinners as your wicket-taking bowlers. So in terms of, I think it was a previous question in terms of somebody looking at Aki Hussain versus Yannick Correa. And I think, in fact, you need to have both in your side because they both offer you something different. Aki Hussain is that very tight, economical bowler who push through some overs, especially at the beginning. And then you look into the middle overs. When you look at what are those moving overs almost for a team where they're looking to set it themselves, you bring in your leg spinner, you look to pick up wickets, you look to restrict them almost. So certainly it's a massive blow not to have Yannick Carrera there, especially on those turning surfaces in Zimbabwe. So hopefully he can come back into the goal very quickly.
Yeah, and I was thinking about Adam Zampa, because we see the benefits of having a leggy like him. He's been and having a ball really in the shorter format of the game. I mean, and Joel, dynamic all-rounder Carlos Brathwaite gave an assessment of the West Indies victory, and that was the one over Nepal. He cited, and I really saw it as well, some mental lapses, a lack of killer instinct, a propensity to let the game meander at certain points, where the foot should have really been firmly down on the opposition's throats. You agree?
Yeah, I can agree to an extent with those comments, because there were instances where, for example, in that game, especially against USA, you saw the tail wag a lot towards the end. In terms of even Nepal, you would have told yourself that the job could have been wrapped up a lot quicker. In terms of mental lapses, yeah, obviously, yeah, for sure. There were little lapses in the field and that kind of stuff. For me, though, the way I look at it, I am not necessarily looking at the cricket from the perspective of this is the West Indies team and how they might play in the next round of things. For me, I'm looking at it, as Sammy mentioned, in terms of job by job. So in terms of how I'm seeing it currently, they got the job done. Are there things that they can definitely improve on? Without a doubt. Like, there are no questions about it. But in terms of currently getting the job done, for me, well, I see them ticking those boxes, because I guess at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is if West Indies make that qualifying spot. Will they be in that top two? If they are, then we could probably look at all the other problems and look to iron them out maybe before we get to India, etc. But for me, as long as those boxes are being ticked, I'm of the school that says, hey, job done.
Job done indeed. They play Zimbabwe over the weekend. So are you making any changes to the side?
In terms of changes, I am not certain I might make any. If anything, I could probably consider, as somebody mentioned, because obviously with Yannick Carrera out, that spinning option, Ralston Chase must be in there. So if anything, obviously I am thinking maybe the likes of a Shepherd could be coming into the side, but I highly doubt, to be very honest. But honestly, it's just a case of executing once again for the West Indies. It will be a challenge. Obviously, Zimbabwe have been batting well. Sikandar Raz is there scoring some runs for them. Sean Williams as well is scoring runs for them. They have runs all around Zimbabwe at the moment. Craig Irvine as well has been scoring runs. So it's a case of, can they get the job done against a home team who have the crowd behind them? And I say the atmosphere in Zimbabwe is fantastic. And you talk about a 12th man, that is a 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th man right now playing out there for Zimbabwe. So it certainly will not be an easy task for them. Zimbabwe are no pushover. Even if you just look at the rankings, you will say, well, West Indies should. But it is not going to be a pushover. This is the match, I think, that will matter most for the West Indies in terms of determining as a measuring stick whether or not they could find themselves in that top two spot at the end of the qualifiers.
And in not too distant memory, I saw that same Zimbabwe side giving the mighty Australia a run for their money. So they're definitely no pushovers. I was hoping to get Pedro back on the line, but really a big thank you for him for coming on. The internet played its part in his dropping in and out. Joel, it's been a pleasure having you as well to give your analysis. And of course, we're wishing the Windies all the best in this matchup against Zimbabwe. And to you, all the best, man. You stay safe. Until next time.
Thanks, Shane.
Appreciate your time. We'll be to wrap up Final Score with the Final 60. Well, let's look forward to see what's happening over the weekend as we look at the Final 60. Here's what's coming up in the world of sports. We start here at home. The BCA Super 50 Cup bowls off tomorrow from 9:45. That's a quarter to 10. You can check that out. The National Senior Games track and field gets going tomorrow. So the seniors are hitting the track from 3:30 in the afternoon, and that's at the Usain Bolt Sports Complex. You got to get there early because you remember seating is kind of limited. So try to get there a bit earlier so you can get that good spot. The ICC World Cup qualifiers continue tomorrow as the West Indies, as we've been talking about, they face the hosts Zimbabwe, and Nepal play the Netherlands. So Zimbabwe will be a tough one for us. We got to really put all guns to the wheel and really, well, come out firing for that match. That's on Sunday now. Ireland will play Sri Lanka while Oman take on Scotland. All the games are set for that early 3 a.m. start Barbados time. You can get up and watch them on MCTV's ESPN channel. There will be no BFA Premier League games this weekend, but the Champions Cup returns in the round of 16 stage both on Saturday and Sunday. The CAC Central American and Caribbean Games continue in El Salvador with the Barbados table tennis teams in action on both days. So we got a lot of sports this weekend, and make sure you check them out. Of course, you can always check MCTV, that's and the channels there. 310 is Sports Max, 308 ESPN, and you know how to maneuver around those, where you can catch a lot of sporting action. Well, that's it for our program this week. You can join us next time as we have more analysis and newsmakers. Join us here on Final Score. Good night, and please enjoy the rest of your sports weekend.